The Augment paradigm envisions an infinite variety of user interface options. Actually, there is no Class 3 level implemented per se, but this is a placeholder for discussing the idea of different user interface options. For example, obviously you would want any number of skill levels represented. We implemented Class 1, Class 2, and the Turbo level. You could have any gradation in between or beyond. You might want different user interface options for handheld devices versus laptops versus high-end desktop computers. You might want different user interface options depending on your organizational role. If you have a project admin role versus a knowledge ninja who's a high-performance user overseeing and facilitating the dynamic knowledge repository for your project, they would need a whole different range of tools beyond what most users would want, and a different user interface style that supports the high performance aspect of their proficiency level. You might want to accommodate a different look and feel for executives, for example, with different tools besides. And you may want to conform to your current work environment, your legacy systems, so that the user interface would provide a more coherent environment of look and feel. And basic user preferences. You could have the same functions represented in completely different user interface styles according to the user preference. So there's any number of user interface requirements that could be met by different user interface options, and so the architecture needs to support that. You might want the user interface to feel like the inside of a jet fighter cockpit or a knowledge garden. Anything goes. I'm going to turn off the blank lines here so we can fit more on the screen. And our note about the user interface. Everyone who uses or sees Augment Browser has a wish list. I have a wish list. I'd like to see more visual indicators and cues reminding you where you are in your outline view, or indicating that lines are being truncated, that levels are being truncated, that whole sections of the document are being filtered out of your view. Maybe a little light flashing so you don't lose track of the idea that you're only looking at a partial file. You might want more help bubbles and training aids, and you want it to behave more like applications you're used to. You want maybe a different vocabulary. But there's also very much about Augment and these features that you wouldn't want to change in a million years. And these become more apparent as you spend more time working in a knowledge environment like this, where you come to really know the power and elegance and speed and proficiency and precision that you can get out of these tools. The point is that your knowledge environment needs to be extensible and flexible and evolvable to meet the needs of all kinds of users at all kinds of level of proficiency. And if you really want to boost the collective IQ, your user interface needs to extend to support highly skilled and trained high-performance users and high-performance teams. And the point of the Open Hyperdocument System standards, or OHS, is to get the basic functionality out there in the world and in an evolvable format so that people can experiment and explore. Ultimately, you want these features in whatever user interface styles embedded in your working environment, your current working environments. That's going to be in the long term, but the good news is that in the short term, we have implemented a version of Hyperscope, which is already out on the web. It's got an evolvable architecture, open source, ready to explore and experiment, extend the functionality, extend the user interface options, and start getting some real experience using this type of system.